All right, so if you are trying to get ahead of the game before Apple's Q4 earnings call on Halloween, TalkTickers is here to help you do that.
Yep.
We've got a ton of analyst reports and some insights from Apple themselves to help give you the full picture.
Right?
Think of this deep dive as like your earnings preview cheat sheet.
Exactly.
So let's get right to it.
Okay.
What's the overall outlook like?
So Apple is aiming for revenue growth in Q4 similar to Q3, which was a 5% year-over-year increase.
Wow.
Which is pretty impressive considering they were battling some foreign exchange headwinds.
Definitely. What about the specific numbers analysts are expecting?
So the consensus estimate for revenue is $94.215 billion. With earnings per share projected to be 1.593. Apple's also given guidance that their gross margins should fall somewhere between 45.5% and 46.5%.
So those are the headline numbers.
Yeah.
Now let's look at the iPhone. Is it going to be a trick or a treat for Apple this quarter?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Some analysts are predicting only a 2.5% growth in iPhone sales, which would be kind of a disappointment considering the hype around the iPhone 16 launch.
Especially with all the talk about their new Apple Intelligence features.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's data that suggests the iPhone 16 might not be flying off the shelves as quickly as they'd hoped.
Oh, really?
Yeah, early pre-sales were reportedly down 12% compared to last year.
12%? That's a pretty steep drop.
Yeah.
Is that because people aren't as excited about these new AI features as Apple anticipated?
It's certainly a possibility.
Yeah.
One recent survey found that only 18% of potential buyers saw AI as a major reason to upgrade.
So maybe the AI hype hasn't translated into actual sales just yet?
Yeah.
And to make matters even more interesting,
Yeah.
Indonesia has decided to ban the sale of the iPhone 16 altogether.
It seems they're trying to pressure Apple into making larger investments in their country.
Wow, talk about a Halloween surprise. And to top it off, there are rumors swirling that Apple has cut iPhone 16 production by a whopping 10 million units. If that's true.
Right.
It definitely paints a less than optimistic picture.
It does.
Yeah.
However, not all analysts are convinced that the iPhone is going to be a total flop this quarter. Some believe that sales, particularly in China, could surprise to the upside.
China? Didn't Apple say something about facing challenges in the Chinese market lately?
They did.
Yeah.
They've been seeing declining revenue in China over the past 3 quarters.
Oh, wow.
They specifically called out the fierce competition in the smartphone market there.
Right.
Especially from companies like Huawei.
So a lot of uncertainty around the iPhone this quarter.
Yes.
But what about Apple's services segment? Could that be their saving grace?
Absolutely. The services segment.
Yeah.
Think App Store, Apple Music, Apple Pay is expected to continue its strong performance with projections of double-digit growth. This would follow the trend we've seen throughout the fiscal year.
It's amazing how much that part of their business has grown.
It is.
Just think over the last 12 months, Apple's services segment has brought in a massive $40 billion in revenue.
And that's double what it was just 5 years ago.
Wow.
It really highlights Apple's ability to create this lucrative ecosystem around their devices.
So services are looking strong?
Yes.
But now let's talk about the AI elephant in the room. Apple is making a big push with these new Apple Intelligence features.
Right.
Do you think there'll be enough to drive the upgrade cycle they're hoping for?
That's the question everyone's asking.
Yeah.
Apple's clearly betting that these innovative AI-powered capabilities will be a game changer, offering a major leap forward in functionality and user experience.
But what about the Department of Justice lawsuit against Google?
Right.
Could that impact Apple's bottom line?
It certainly could. That case focuses on Google's dominance in the search market, especially their exclusive agreements with device makers like Apple.
Wait, so Google pays Apple to be the default search engine on their devices?
Yes.
How much are we talking here?
According to court documents, Google's been paying Apple up to $20 billion annually for that privilege.
Wow, that's a serious chunk of change.
It is.
So if the DOJ wins this case, Apple could lose out on a lot of revenue.
Potentially, yes. If Google is forced to change their practices, Apple might have to find new ways to make up for that lost income.
So AI represents both a potential growth driver and a source of uncertainty for Apple.
Yes.
What a fascinating dynamic.
It is.
But speaking of uncertainty, let's shift gears and talk about something a little more concrete.
Right.
Apple's shareholder rewards program.
Yes, the treats for investors. Predictions are that Apple will continue its pattern of generous shareholder rewards with an estimated $25 billion in share buybacks expected this quarter.
That's in line with what they've been doing recently. And it's worth noting that Apple's stock has been on an absolute tear this year.
It has.
Hitting all-time highs.
It has been a remarkable run.
The big question is, can they keep up this momentum?
That's what everyone will be watching for. Right. But remember, the iPhone story may not be the only thing driving their performance this time around.
Right. Investors will be paying close attention to how those services numbers shake out.
Exactly.
They could be a major indicator of Apple's overall health and future prospects.
The services segment is becoming increasingly important for Apple's long-term success.
Okay, so to recap, we've got potential iPhone weakness, uncertainty surrounding China.
Yes.
The services segment as a potential bright spot.
Yes.
And the AI enigma.
Right.
Sounds like this earnings call could be quite a roller coaster.
It's definitely going to be an interesting one to watch.
Yeah.
We'll be breaking it all down for you after the call.
Okay.
So be sure to tune in then.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah, it really highlights how Apple's success isn't just tied to the iPhone anymore. It's about this broader ecosystem they've built.
And that ecosystem is like becoming increasingly global.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to that Indonesia situation.
Right.
Banning the iPhone 16 is a pretty drastic move, isn't it?
It is. And, you know, if we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, it points to like this rising tension between tech giants like Apple and national governments. We're seeing more and more countries try to exert their influence over these powerful companies.
It's not just like a business competition anymore. It's like a geopolitical game.
Exactly. And speaking of power plays, let's shift gears and dive into Apple's own moves in the AI arena. They've been relatively quiet compared to some of their rivals. But these recent announcements around Apple Intelligence suggests they're ready to make some noise.
It feels like everyone's been waiting for Apple to like really step up their AI game.
Right.
What do you think their strategy is here?
Well, they may be playing catch-up in some ways.
Okay.
But Apple has a history of taking their time. And then releasing something truly innovative and refined.
They're all about that it just works magic.
Right.
But remember that DOJ lawsuit against Google we talked about earlier?
Right.
That could throw a wrench in their plans, couldn't it?
Here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
This case has the potential to reshape the entire digital landscape.
Wow.
If Google is forced to open up its search platform to other competitors, it could have a major impact on Apple's revenue.
Right. Losing that $20 billion from Google would be a huge hit, especially if iPhone sales aren't as strong as they've been in the past.
It's definitely a concern. But remember, Apple has a few things working in its favor.
Okay, like what? Give me some good news.
Well, first, they have an incredibly loyal customer base. People love their Apple products, and they're often like deeply embedded in the Apple ecosystem.
That's true. Once you go Apple, it's hard to switch to something else.
Right. Second, Apple has a knack for innovation.
Okay.
They may not always be first to market, but they have a way of refining and perfecting technologies in a way that really resonates with consumers.
You think about the Apple Watch.
Exactly.
It wasn't the first smartwatch.
Right.
But it's become like the dominant player in the market.
Exactly. And third, don't underestimate Apple's financial strength.
Okay.
They have a massive amount of cash on hand.
Right.
And generate tons of free cash flow, which gives them the flexibility to weather storms and invest in new opportunities.
Okay, that's reassuring. So maybe it's not all doom and gloom for Apple. But I'm still curious, what does all of this mean for the average Apple investor? Should they be worried?
That's a great question, and honestly, there's no easy answer. Apple is at a crossroads, facing real challenges, but also exciting opportunities.
It's like they're standing at a fork in the road.
Yeah.
And Halloween night is decision time.
I like that analogy. This earnings call will give us a glimpse into which path Apple is choosing. Will they double down on their core hardware business? Or make bolder moves into new areas like AI and services?
It's like that poker analogy again. Are they going to play it safe?
Right.
Or go all in on a risky hand?
We know Apple likes to think big.
Yeah.
And even with all this uncertainty, their stock is still trading near all-time highs.
Okay.
That suggests investors have confidence in the company.
So maybe there's still some magic left in Cupertino.
Right.
But while we're on the topic of challenges, Let's not forget what Tim Cook said during the last earnings call.
Okay.
iPhone 15 was actually performing better than iPhone 14 did over the same period after its launch.
That's an important point.
Yeah.
So those early pre-sale numbers for the iPhone 16 might not be telling the whole story.
Okay.
Demand could pick up, especially with the holidays coming up.
It's possible. And remember, Apple has a diverse portfolio of products and services.
Right.
Some of which are doing extremely well.
Exactly. That services segment we talked about, it's become a powerhouse.
Right. Almost 30% of Apple's revenue is coming from services now.
And it's only going to grow in the years to come.
Wow.
That consistent revenue stream could help offset any potential weakness in iPhone sales.
So even if the iPhone has a bit of a stumble, strong services revenue could cushion the blow.
Right.
And then there's the wild card AI.
Right. While they might not be as loud about it as some of their competitors, Apple is quietly building a powerful suite of AI-driven features that could transform their products and services.
It's funny how we talk about Apple being this secretive company.
Yeah, right.
And yet they've been quite open about their AI strategy. Tim Cook has talked about the potential of AI.
Yeah.
And they've released detailed information about their Apple Intelligence platform.
That's a good observation.
Yeah.
Their approach to AI seems very deliberate.
Okay.
They're not rushing to release half-baked products. They're taking their time to develop AI features that are seamlessly integrated with their existing ecosystem.
It's the classic Apple playbook, wait, watch, and then wow.
Exactly. But there's another piece of the puzzle we haven't touched on yet. The Mac.
Oh, yeah, the trusty Mac.
Yeah.
What's the outlook for that segment?
It's a bit of a mixed bag.
Okay.
They've had some success with the new M3-powered MacBook Air.
That's a popular machine, especially among students.
Right. But overall, Mac sales have been a bit sluggish. And they're facing some tough competition from Windows-based PCs.
So it doesn't sound like the Mac is going to be the hero of Apple's earnings this time around.
Probably not, but it's still a significant part of their business.
Okay.
And they're continuing to invest in it. Remember, the Mac is where Apple Intelligence was first launched.
Right.
With initial features for developers being rolled out earlier this week.
That's true. Maybe we'll see some exciting new developments on the Mac front in the coming quarters.
It's certainly a possibility, and it's worth noting that Apple's innovation goes beyond just new products and services.
Okay.
They're also making strides in areas like sustainability and accessibility.
Right. Tim Cook highlighted those initiatives during the last earnings call.
He's passionate about those topics, and they resonate with many consumers, especially younger generations.
It's a smart move for Apple to focus on these areas. It shows they're not just about profits, but also about making a positive impact.
It's good for business and good for the world.
Exactly. So to circle back to our original question, what does all of this mean for Apple investors?
Here's my takeaway. Apple is still a fundamentally strong company with a powerful brand, a loyal customer base, and a history of innovation. But they're also navigating some real challenges.
Right.
And the outcome of the DOJ case against Google could significantly impact their future.
So it's a wait-and-see situation.
I think so. This Halloween earnings call is going to be one for the books.
No doubt. And TalkTickers will be here to break it all down.
Yes, we'll be back after the call with a full analysis and our take on what it all means for Apple's future.
Yeah, it's going to be super interesting to hear what they say about it all, beyond the numbers for this quarter and the whole Google lawsuit.
Right.
What I find really interesting is the big picture. Like, where is Apple headed?
It is fascinating how Apple, a company known for its hardware, now generates almost a third of its revenue from services.
Right.
And they're diving headfirst into AI, a software-driven field.
It's almost like they're transforming, like becoming something new. But is that something new?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Are they becoming more like a traditional software and services company, like a Microsoft or a Google?
Or are they creating some like unique hybrid model that combines their hardware with software capabilities?
That's what makes this earnings call so important. It's not just about the numbers for this quarter. It's a sneak peek into Apple's long-term strategy.
So it's less about like whether they beat earnings estimates by a few cents.
Right.
And more about the signals they're sending about where they're headed.
Exactly.
Will they unveil like ambitious new AI initiatives?
Yeah.
Talk about new ways they're leveraging their services ecosystem?
Exactly. We need to listen for clues about their priorities, their investments, their bets on the future.
And that brings us back to something we talked about earlier, Apple's giant cash reserves.
Right.
What are they going to do with all that money?
That's the question on everyone's mind.
Yeah.
They've been buying back stock and paying dividends.
Right.
But could we see some major acquisitions?
Ooh, acquisitions.
Investments in groundbreaking new technologies.
Could they buy like a smaller AI company?
Yeah.
To like speed up their AI efforts?
Possibly.
Or maybe buy like a streaming service or a gaming company to expand their services?
It's certainly a possibility. Apple has a history of making strategic acquisitions, often targeting companies with niche technologies or talented teams that they can integrate into their ecosystem.
It's like they're putting together a giant puzzle.
Yeah.
And this earnings call might reveal a few more pieces.
It could give us a clearer picture of the puzzle Apple is building.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah.
What's your final takeaway for listeners heading into this Halloween earnings call?
I think what's important to remember is that Apple is a company in transition.
Okay.
They're facing challenges, but they also have incredible opportunities ahead of them. Pay close attention to the themes and strategies they emphasize during the call.
Right.
Those insights will be far more valuable than just focusing on the raw numbers.
I think that's great advice. So to wrap things up, will this Halloween bring a treat or a trick for Apple investors?
We'll find out soon enough.
We will. And thanks for joining us on TalkTickers. We'll be back after the call to break down all the key takeaways and analyze what they mean for Apple's future.